Hello and welcome back to another government contracting video. Today we're going to be covering 20 do's and don'ts, or don'ts and do's rather, for new government contractors that are looking to win their first or win more government contracts in the federal contracting space. If you're new here, my name of course is Derek James, and I won 32 contracts worth over $15 million. And over the last 3 to 5 years, I've helped many small businesses that are new to the space win over $75 million in the federal space for their businesses. So you definitely want to stick around for these do's and don'ts that we're going to be sharing today in the video. And I have saved some of my best tips today towards the end of the video, so you definitely want to make sure that you don't miss out on those as well. So don't number one is do not obsess as a new government contractor coming into the space over your capabilities statement. As a new government contractor, you're probably familiar with the concept. Maybe you have one, maybe you haven't, but something that I see a lot in the space is new government contractors obsessing, spending weeks or months, or maybe spending a lot of money trying to get the perfect capabilities statement. The truth is, a capability statement is not going to win you a contract. It can be useful for getting your name out there, maybe some branding, maybe a little bit of marketing, but obsessing over it can be something that takes you away from the more important parts of your business. So the do that I recommend doing instead is going to be focusing on several NAICS codes, several keywords. These are items that would necessarily be showcased inside of a capability statement, but we want to make it more functional. We want to make it more pragmatic. So identify a bit of an umbrella, a bit of a group of NAICS codes for contracts that you want to go after, and then go forward using that to start doing research for the contracts that you want to bid on, for example, on sam.gov, instead of focusing and overstressing on a piece of paper or something that's going to be digital that, again, is not going to be a huge part of your process to winning contracts. Number two, in my opinion, do not pay a company thousands of dollars to register your business in sam.gov to get your cage code. Instead, do it yourself, DIY. There are plenty of free resources online that will get you up to speed doing this in an hour or two. That's typically all that it takes. Sam.gov even has a cheat sheet that you can download. I'll put a link down below this video for you to get it so you can follow the steps and so that you know the information that you're going to need to provide before you go to sit down to do this. You can already have everything in place and you don't have to start your government contracting business in debt or spending thousands of dollars just to get that very important cage code. Now, number three, if you're trying to market your business, you're new, you're excited, you got that cage code, and you want everybody to know it, you want agencies, you want contracting to know that your company exists, what you can provide, maybe you have set-asides, etc. What you don't want to do is spam your information. So for example, if you did do that capability step, and you're just going to start emailing it out to every contracting officer on the bottom of a sam.gov solicitation. On the listing page, you can get their emails, their phone numbers, start calling, start emailing, sending out your company information. Hey, can you give us a contract? Hey, look at our capabilities. That is not what you want to do. Instead, what I do recommend that you do is to find which agencies in the federal space are buying the most of the NAICS codes that your business has to offer. So it's important to do a bit of research to establish and find that proof of concept. Make sure the government is buying what you have to offer and what you want to sell, and then making sure that you link your capabilities, what you have to offer, with those agencies that are buying the most of it. And then once you complete that step, what I call a proof of concept step, then you can strategically begin reaching out to those contracting officers at those federal agencies. And in my really brutal opinion, just start bidding and targeting the opportunities that they have. That way they know you're a serious player. You're showing up again and again for the opportunities that they're posting, instead of trying to come to them without having any work to your name, trying to get contracts, favored to you, which is illegal, or just trying to get them to do some sort of preference favoritism for you. That's just not going to be a good reputation for your business and is really annoying to contracting officers. Now, number four, when it comes to bidding on contracts, I don't want you to plan to bid for a few months or bid on a few contracts and then wait and see what happens. Very often this is the wrong expectation, and you're just going to waste a couple months of your own effort, because what seems to happen to many government contractors after they wait and see what happened, this is where their mindset is. If they haven't won a contract in that very short period of time, or that very short window of only bidding on a few solicitations, then they're gonna kind of feel like they've swam out into the deep end in the ocean, and they either have to keep going, which is a huge risk to keep bidding contracts, or they're gonna swim back to shore. Mostly what I see is they swim back to shore. They say, I need help. I don't have this all figured out. YouTube University, everything free is not the only thing that I need. I actually do need support. And if I can't find that, or I can't justify investing something that's going to help me, then I'm just gonna give up on government contracting and say that the game is rigged or it's too hard. So I really don't want you to do that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in the space. Instead, to fix that, what I do want you to do is to properly manage your expectations. And I'll give you a bit of a framework to help you do this starting today if you want to follow and take my advice. So here it is: bid submissions 0 to 5. So your first contract, your second contract up to 5, they're probably going to be really bad. Okay, you're not going to really know what you're doing. They probably won't be compliant, and they're definitely not going to be competitive offers unless you do something accidentally good, or you're coming from a place where you already have training and you're starting in this learning curve ahead of what the usual pack is. So just expect 0 to 5 to be really poor. Now, bid submissions 5 through 10, you're gonna kind of get tired of not only not winning contracts, but just through the sheer repetitions, you're gonna get better because you're gonna do it again and again and again. And just like tying your shoes or riding a bike, human nature can't help to get better through repetition and practice. So not only are you gonna improve in that facet, but if you are following this strategically, you're also going to perform debriefs or at least get feedback from the targeted contracting officers that you are responding to, so that you can respond in the ways that they would like to see your proposal beefed up. And you can also double down on what's already working based on the feedback you're getting too. And if you do that, you get to the range, which I call 10 to 20, you're in the money. Now, this is not a promise and this is not a guarantee, but where I see most small businesses winning their first or winning their next contracts is when they get in the range of 10 to 20 through constantly improving. And of course, with an asterisk, I didn't mention it, but this is primarily for service contracts. Supplies, products could be 50 to 100. Now, of course, this works best if you are constantly improving and following a lot of the steps that I cover in the other training when it comes to writing your proposals effectively, writing them to win, targeting government weak points, and selling on your competitive advantages in your proposals, and also making sure that your pricing is dialed in to be competitive. If you're doing all of that, 10 to 20 is the range, is the expectation that you should be approaching this with. That way you're not bidding on a few, you're not spending a couple months and then waiting to see what happens. Okay, so now the next one is do not research for months on end, going through NAICS codes, going through FPDS, going through GSA, eBuy, any of these government websites, just taking in information. At some point, it's information overload, and really what happens as a result and consequence of that information overload is paralysis analysis. So we want to try to head off paralysis analysis before it sets in, which means we don't spend too much time on any particular thing in forms of research. We do the necessary, the adequate research, and then we take it to the testing board, and then we get out there and we go after something, and then we see what happens. And then based on that, doing something real, we adjust and pivot, and then we keep going. So do not spend months on end doing research. Instead, I already mentioned it, do spend time to focus on what I call the proof of concept exercise, which you can go over to USA Spending to find which agencies are buying the most of the NAICS codes that you want to offer under. And then once you've completed that first stress test, you can do a second stress test to validate and take that information over to sam.gov and see if it's true. Are there really contracts for what you're looking for? Are there agencies? Are there opportunities that you can go after? If so, you don't need to do anything else at this stage. You can move forward with learning how to write proposals and bid on contracts. And if that's not true, you need to go back and look at the data and maybe choose something different or refine your searches until you find something that is going to be a match where there is strong proof of concept. But once you're done, move on. Don't spend too much time there. So now this next one is a real long-term growth killer, especially for new government contractors. And that is, you do not want to overcharge the government. So very often, new government contractors and even teaming partners, subcontractors, hear government contracting and they think deep pockets, and increasingly so in recent years. Remember, the government does their own research. They conduct their own analysis of what the good or service should cost based on reasonable market prices, and they're going to expect no less from federal government contractors. So instead, what I do recommend is to price to be competitive, to win the contract, right? We don't want to take losses and we don't want to take bare bone margins, but we do want to price to win, to beat the competition, especially if we're going after lowest price contracts. But even in best value contracts, pricing still matters. It's just other factors matter too. So I do want you to price competitively, but I also want you to go after contracts where you can make money year after year, base plus option your contracts to make this worth it. And if you are bidding with teaming partners who would be subcontractors once the contract goes into effect and you win, you can also negotiate their numbers down and even potentially take over with your own employees after a year or two to make the contract even more profitable. This way, on the proposal front, you're coming in with competitive numbers, but on the back end, in terms of contract management and fulfillment, you're actually becoming more profitable year after year instead of keeping things the same, or maybe even starting to become less profitable because you forgot to factor in things like inflation or just the cost of doing business for future years. Okay, now the next one is a big one. There's a lot of talk in the space. I've talked about it a lot myself too. You do not want to just set and forget a government contract like a rotisserie chicken. Do you guys remember those commercials back in the day? Just set it and forget it. And then the audience, right? That is not government contracting, especially if you're working with teaming partners or soon to be subcontractors. If you are doing that, can be dangerous, it can be reckless, it's also against the regulations, so it can also be illegal. You want to be careful if you are building a team, and you want to make sure that you are not setting and forgetting your government contract like a rotisserie chicken. Instead, what I do want you to do is to stay in compliance and just in general to stay involved so that you make sure that your team is doing a good job on the contract. So I do want you to stay involved in the management and key and vital tasks throughout the lifetime and performance of the contract. And it's also going to help you avoid things like being an ostensible contractor where you're overly reliant on a subcontractor to kind of like do all of the work. Again, that's setting it and forgetting it too much. So you do want to stay involved. It's okay to do teaming. It's okay to work with subcontractors, but make sure you're also doing your part, your role as part of the prime in the contract. Now, the next one is something that I'm very passionate about, especially having a channel here trying to help as many small government contractors as I can. What you don't want to do is to listen to multiple or maybe 3 to 5 different people talk about government contracting. Okay, in terms of following a strategy, following steps. You don't want to listen to conflicting things. It's going to confuse you. It's going to lead to a lot of paralysis analysis because you're going to say, well, this person said this and this person said this. Well, guess what? There's probably circumstantial reasons why things are being said, or maybe they're conflicting. And so if you don't know where they're coming from because you're newer in the space, it's just going to sound really confusing to you. So instead, what I do want you to do is to focus on what really makes sense in terms of a strategy and a person that you make sense for where your business is at right now. And then also don't listen to anybody, myself included. Don't just listen to me blindly. I want you to do research. I want you to do your own research, dive in. Do these things make sense? Can you find links to regulations if those are being cited? Or even, does it just make common sense? Is it intuitive? They say, keep it simple, stupid. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Does it pass the KISS test, or is it something that's kind of being drawn up to make it sound maybe more exciting or more practical than it really is? You know, mama didn't raise no fool. So sometimes your best intuition, your best way of filtering things is your own gut. So run it through your own gut test as well to see, does this really make sense? Is this logical? Is there proof? Is there evidence of this? And is this something that you can do research on to further validate? Okay, so now this next one, especially for the last year or a couple of years, ChatGPT, AI, software, these have been even bigger players in all industries, but especially government contracting. Now, something that I don't want you to think is that unless you're a master of ChatGPT or a master of AI, or you're plugged into the most expensive, the most fancy with the most features, most comprehensive government contracting software, that if you're not doing that, that you stand no chance at winning. That's just not true. Instead, what I do want you to do is to leverage what makes sense to your budget, to your skill level, to, yes, use AI, use ChatGPT, use software in a way that makes sense to you, a way that you can afford, use the free stuff. But keep in mind, government contracts are still being evaluated by real people at the end of the day. And they want to know that their requirement, the proposal that you submit in response to, is tailored and customized to that. It's not enough only to upload a statement of work, for example, to something like ChatGPT and have it pop out a technical response to how you're going to do that. That can be something that's very powerful and a time saver for sure as part of your proposal. But if it's not tied together in a way that is still hitting the evaluation factors, for example, or the Section L instruction offers, also being tied together with competitive pricing and making sure to avoid any tripwires that are built into the proposal that will get you excluded, something as simple as font type or a page limit, you cannot rely on AI or software in this day and age to tailor and customize to those requirements. And also, if you use your brain, if everybody's going to start doing that, then everybody's going to start sounding the same. So this can be your opportunity to also stand out, be more human, especially if you're working with a teaming partner. Have them help you write what this response is going to be, so that when the engineer or the program manager, the person who really is needing the work done, is reading your proposal response, you want them reading that saying, you know what, we have faith, we have confidence in this government contractor because they really know how this work is done. They're going to really be able to sniff out what a ChatGPT AI answer is when compared to something that's written by real humans that really have done the work in the past. Now, lastly, I don't want you relying too much on any particular resource. And in this example, I'll say, do not rely too much on the PTAC Apex coordinators. Apex can be a great free resource for your business, but the truth is they typically only take you so far. So if you have huge expectations for them to be helping you bid on contracts and win contracts through the Apex, unless you have one that is very engaged and very involved, that's not typically most. Unless you have that, that's not going to be your experience. They can be very educational, they can be very nice, they can offer a little bit of accountability through their meetups and their trainings. But at the end of the day, it is no substitution for you getting out there, doing the hard work, doing the proof of concept, doing the research, responding to proposals, building winning teams, learning how to price, and putting numbers on the board at your target agencies so that you put yourself in the best position to win contracts, win more contracts, or just win contracts as fast as possible. That's not something that's fair to put on an Apex or anybody else. So just make sure that you do manage your expectations if you are going to be reaching out to them for their help. Now, if you are needing more support and you liked today's video, I have a webinar training that is coming up. I'll have the link down for that below. You don't want to miss your spot because there are only so many people that can register for those. So make sure you click down below to save your spot and let me know what you thought of the video today. In the training, I'm going to show you 7 forms of friction that you can avoid for your government contracting business that's going to allow you to get up to speed. That really is the theme for the training. It is how to win contracts faster, because what I'm realizing and seeing over the last couple of years, those who are in government contracting the longest without winning, they're the ones that are burning out. They are getting out of the space, versus if you're setting yourself up to win quickly at the beginning, you're going to have a lot more willpower, you're going to have a lot more resources, a lot more time, a lot more focus to see this through so that you can actually start getting government contracts under your belt. And if you're doing that faster, that means the wins will come faster too. So it's obviously something that I'm super passionate about, and I definitely recommend for any new government contractor and every government contractor, even if you're not new, to go through that training. So down below, let me know what was the most helpful do and don't for you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Make sure so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.